Your hosts are here, Sammie and Michelle. By the end of this podcast, you'll know them well. Adulting, navigating the journey of life. Careers to relationships, pain and strife. Put down the rule book, rethink the status quo. If there's another direction you wanna go, find purpose, passion and mastery in all that you do with Status Post Adulting.
Hey, Status Post Adulting fam! This is Sammie.
And Michelle.
And you're listening to the 68th episode of Status Post Adulting, where we are talking about life lessons I learned from being a PA. But first, let me check in with my co-host, Michelle. How you doing, Michelle?
I'm doing well, Sammie. No complaints. Got my car serviced last weekend. Everything's looking good. Enjoying life. Happy. What about you, Sammie?
Ditto. You know, we got your car service, which is a whole trip for us because we got to go to our nearest big city for that. And that's about 2 hours away. So yeah, it was a little fun trip. We got to have some sushi, things we could never have in our town. So it was quite fun.
It was, Sammie. And I'm really excited about this topic this week. Sammie and I were talking about how there are different things you learn for your job that help you be better at doing that job, but it's so applicable to other things that you do in life and how you approach people and how you grow as a person. And so we wanted to do a 2-part series, non-consecutive. One where Sammie talks about things that she's learned being a physician assistant, and I'll do one where I talk about things that I learned in my job in sales.
Exactly, Michelle. This was Michelle's great idea, and I love it because it is so true. We do learn so much at our jobs that is beyond work-related. It's like really life-related. They're really Status Post Adulting lessons that you learn at your adulting job. So I think these will be 2 really fun episodes.
Totally agree, Sammie. And just for anybody who doesn't know, maybe people who aren't in this country, what exactly is a physician assistant?
A physician assistant, or soon-to-be physician associate, as they say. We are medical professionals who work alongside doctors and nurse practitioners, and we take care of patients. We prescribe medications, we diagnose them with diseases. Some physician assistants help in surgery. The career can really vary because you can be in really any type of setting, but pretty much you're diagnosing and treating diseases.
Perfect, Sammie. That being said, let's kick it off. What do you feel like is your number one lesson from being a physician assistant?
Oh, the lessons are endless. And if I could summarize it, it would be exercise every day and do not eat sugar.
And that's our episode. Hot take from Sammie.
No, I have real lessons, but really, honestly, sometimes it is kind of nice to be helping people with their health all day because it's just like a constant reminder of like why I need to be healthy. And it has made me healthier over time. So the literal medicine aspect of my job is actually applicable to my own life.
And mine, because you are always telling me I need to exercise more.
She doesn't move people.
She's fun. We have fun. But really, Sammie,
I would say maybe one of the first lessons I learned, even in training and stuff, was how to take criticism without taking it too personally.
Oof.
In medicine, there is a lot of criticism going on, and it's actually like kind of part of the training. Like I remember in our school, they'd always be like, we need to break you down and then build you up. And I think maybe like some newer age residencies for physicians or like maybe new age PA programs are trying to like move away from that. But I mean, I think it was a big part of the training is like people are going to tell you what's wrong with you and you just need to be able to take that. And let me tell you, I was a kid who would literally cry with like any criticism because I just wanted to be like a sweet, perfect little girl. And I was really hurt when people would even just be like, hey, put that down, or like, hey, don't touch that, or like, you need to tie your shoe. Sometimes I would tear up even at those just small requests because I felt like I wasn't living up to some sort of standard. But I think going through PA training and becoming a PA has really taught me to like take the criticism that people are giving me without like taking it so personally. And, you know, people sometimes are just like angry people or like people who always go off or people who are always criticizing everything. And so like to also take it with a grain of salt, be like, hey, like this is what they're saying and this is what's useful to me. And this is what like I can put away because like that's that person's personality and I don't need to necessarily take all of the burden that they're trying to put on me.
That's a good point, Sammie. I think there are so many things going on in everybody's own life that to take something so personally is never really worth it. And I say that as somebody who could probably take criticism more graciously.
So my next lesson is that it's not about what you say, it's about how you say it. And I think this is like a skill that you learn like over time because we all learn similar things in medicine of like how to tell people to diet and exercise and all the things. Like, you know, a lot of the things that people need to do are pretty straightforward. But if that was true, then people would like leave their primary care office and like just do all the things they need to do. And that's not the case. You know, people are very different. People are told things in different ways. Things resonate with people in different ways. And that's something I really learned in my job. Is like how to communicate something to each different type of person to inspire them. And this is something like I'm constantly working on. I feel like it's part of our podcast. I feel like it's part of daily life. It's just like how to say something to someone or how to inspire someone to make a change in their life.
It's so true, Sammie. I feel like, I don't remember who it was, maybe Derek Sivers on Tim Ferriss's podcast, but he's the one that says something along the lines of, if it was just about knowledge, we'd all be millionaires with six packs. Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly. I remember the first thing that I discovered that was really helpful, instead of just telling people things, was the food log. And I was like obsessed with food logs. And I would tell people, like my friends, to do food logs because a food log, it's more than just a log of what you eat. It tells you who you are. It tells you that you're the type of person who picks up a snack in the middle of the night. Or you're the type of person who says they drink 2 liters of water a day and drinks like 250 milliliters of water a day. The food log, it not only tells you what's going on, but like I have people do a food log and they've figured out their problem and already treated it by themselves by the time they come to the next appointment. I think it just shows how much what you say doesn't matter. It's like how that person gets the message. And for a lot of people, that is just actually self-reflecting and being really mindful about what they're doing by actually being accountable to somebody about it.
It's so true, Sammie. I think we all think we're better or worse than we are. But in reality, like if someone asked me, like, what do I usually eat? What are my meals containing? I probably wouldn't be able to give a good, accurate picture because A, I don't remember, and B, I kind of like to make it seem better than it is, right? Like I like to pretend like I'm eating vegetables, even though a lot of times I'm not.
It's so true. And I also use the 4 tendencies a lot. So go back to our 4 tendencies episode. So especially like people who have diabetes or high blood pressure, sometimes they can be rebels. And just telling them that they're not eating correctly or that they need to take medication or they need to do this is not going to be inspiring to them. And I think I had talked about this in the 4 tendencies episode as well. But especially for rebels, just like really bringing out the fact that this whole idea that there's so much sugar in our food is itself like conspiratorial. And bringing out the conspiratorial aspect to that and just pointing out to them that like, listen, like if you're going to eat all these sugary foods, like you are a pawn of this governmental society that just like wants to keep you unhealthy. And sometimes you just have to frame things in the way that people get it. You know, that's how Michelle would get it if she was my patient. So I think we just have to put things in a way that resonates with the people.
It's so true. The 4 tendencies, if you haven't listened to that topic or if you're not familiar with it, I definitely recommend it because it helps you understand yourself, but also it's fully changed for me too how I communicate with people, how I give advice to my friends, how I talk to my clients when I had them, because people respond to things differently and it's not because they don't want to hear it or because they don't want to do it. They just need to be communicated to in a certain way for them to understand what you're saying.
It's so true, Michelle. Which brings me to another point, which is positive reinforcement. I think one of the greatest things that I came up with during my career is certificates. Like, it's so simple. Like, you get a certificate when you're younger for doing a good thing. And it's like, why would you not get a certificate for like bringing your A1C from 12 to 6? You've literally changed your whole life. Your lifespan is going to be longer. Your life quality is going to be better. there's actually nothing more important that you could have done. So yeah, you deserve a freaking certificate. And I try to use gamification a little bit. So like streaks. So it'll be like 3 months of controlled A1C gets a sticker. 6 months of controlled A1C gets 2 stickers. So people kind of want to maintain their streak, and bringing in some of like the more modern tactics that like people use to motivate themselves into medicine.
Honestly, that's better than a participation award that you get when you're younger, because you're actually doing something and making a difference.
It's so true. I mean, I don't want to be dramatic, but like I've had 70-ish% of people, the first time they get this certificate, will tear up. And it is so touching, but it's seriously, it is a big deal because they did make a huge change. And I know that if the A1C came down that much, like this is something they're working on every single day, every single hour that they're awake. So it totally deserves a certificate.
Maybe, Sammie, I should be making certificates for you. Like when you clean the kitchen on the weekend, I can be like, hey, here's a reward.
Honestly, it would work. Like, I'm already feeling it. Me and my friends used to always joke, you can just give me positive reinforcement and then I'll do anything. You'd be like, you know what? You do such a good job. We can't actually afford to pay you anymore, but like, you're the best. You're literally the best. And we just want to keep you. And I'd be like, you know what? Okay, I'm in. Like, positive reinforcement works so well.
That's so true for you. I feel like this is definitely how I ended up in sales, where I was like, yeah, bye. Maybe, I don't know. I do love more words of affirmation, people in our love language. So maybe we're just easy to motivate.
Oh, so my next lesson, this is a tough one because this one, it's just very emotionally difficult. And that is to 100% own all your mistakes and make them learning opportunities. And I will say, when you practice medicine, being a physician assistant, the mistakes you make can be pretty, I've been practicing for 7 years now, I think. So the mistakes can be pretty extreme mistakes. Like they can be sometimes harmful to people. They can literally affect people's lives. Things you might not pick up on time, or, errors that you make in medications or something. Like they can be huge mistakes. And when you have been doing this for a while, like I don't want to say it's inevitable, but it happens. Like at first, you don't want to look at it. You want to just like turn away from what you did. And then you kind of want to get defensive and be like, well, like maybe this person should have checked this and this person should have checked this. And like this person should have caught that before this happened. And the final stage is like you really have to look at yourself and be like, what are the things that I could have done to avoid this? And now, anytime I make a mistake that I catch, I try to like write down every single thing that could be done differently in the future to avoid the mistake. And I think that really helps me try to like own the error and prevent it in the future. And then also like when you go to your patient and you let them know that you made a mistake, you just also have to, in that situation, also 100% own the error that you made. And I say this and it's not easy to do. And I will say that like when I first started practicing, I probably was more on the defensive side than owning things. And I think that can be natural, but it's applicable to life too. You just have to fully own everything that you do, good or bad.
It's interesting, Sammie, because I feel like we're in a culture now where, I felt this in my own career, where a lot of times it feels like it's just better not to own up to something, because you're like, okay, if I can save face, or if I like take ownership over this, like maybe I'll get blamed for it. And I just find like it doesn't really help you and it doesn't help anyone else. This is not the same, I think, as beating yourself up or like letting yourself getting really anxious about every little thing that happens. It's more about if something happens, being able to say, if I have complete ownership over what is happening, what is something I can do in the future to make sure this doesn't happen again?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a really good one, Sammie.
The next thing I have on my list is that people want to be heard.
Ain't it the truth?
It is so true. A lot of times we come in, we know the diagnosis by like a few things people said, and we just want to tell them what to do. And also the appointment is only 15 minutes, so it's like, get out of here. But people come there because they want to be heard. And whether you think you know their story or not, it's good to listen to it, because I think a lot of people, once they get that story out of them, will already feel better. Like there's some people I've literally seen, they tell me what's going on and I've literally prescribed nothing to them. I've literally done nothing to improve their situation. And then they leave and they're like, I feel better. I think a lot of times people just want to let out what they're feeling and have someone listen to them and have someone understand what's going on. And for various reasons, they can't do that with the people around them. So I think a lot of times it's just about being heard.
I agree with that, Sammie. I think that a lot of times we rush to fix people's problems, or we think we need to solve people's problems. And I know for myself, a lot of times I prefer to have someone listen to me, and sometimes I untangle my issue right there and then. And also, it's just nice to have someone be there and listen. Like, I don't actually necessarily need someone to solve my problem, depending on what it is, obviously, but it is nice to be heard.
Yeah, and on a similar note, people respond to your energy. This is one that I noticed even when I was a nurse assistant. If someone's in that situation, like some people will be like kind of going into like a little bit of a psychotic break or like becoming mentally disconnected. And if you go in there like anxious or, aggressively trying to like calm them down, they just pick up on that so much. So a lot of times if you can like relax your energy and like make yourself really, really calm and enter a situation, it will change everything. Like if you act like everything's fine and you talk to them like they're human, and if they start talking about things that aren't real, you don't immediately try to correct them. You just like hear them out for a second. People like visibly calm down. And this is also true like in like more urgent or emergency situations where like people are kind of in a panic. Responding to that calmly, I think, will help calm everybody down so that everybody can think more clearly and act more clearly. Because I think we all know, like, people who are panicked make us panicked too. So, like, just to try to not be somebody who's anxious or panicked will help keep a situation calm.
Yeah, what you're saying about energy, Sammie, especially around people who can pick up on it. Like, some people will really, really pick up on what you're feeling, what you're thinking. And I think to just be aware of that is really helpful, because sometimes maybe you can't control it. Maybe you are freaking out, but understand that that's also going to affect how the people that you're talking to or working with are going to feel as well, I think is really important. Or sometimes too, for me, because I can pick up on how people are feeling, I would rather they just tell me instead of trying to pretend like they aren't feeling that way. Because otherwise I will just be like, if someone comes to me and they're like, everything's fine. And I'm like, everything is clearly not fine. And I'm not okay because I know you're not fine. It drives me insane because I'm like, I would just rather you just tell me. You're not saving my feelings or anything in like a social setting.
Yeah. I also find it really helpful to like tell people directly how you're feeling, but like in a like comical way, like, I'm so anxious right now. Just like being honest about like, it's stressful. Things have escalated and they're not okay anymore. But hey, you know what? I'm acknowledging that I'm freaking out and we need to go on now.
So true.
And by that same token, just like appreciating everybody around you. People are trying to do their best and working really hard just to make sure that things can function. And the last thing you want to do is have people think that like you're not grateful for what they're doing. And I think taking time to appreciate people, once again, back to the positive reinforcement, it makes people want to continue to do their job well.
I believe that so much. I really believe that the way you treat people around you, especially your team and people you're around all the time, will come back to you. So if you create a positive, optimistic environment, it will come back to you in tenfold, versus if you yourself are toxic, you're only going to contribute to a toxic environment.
So true. So my next one, Michelle, is that it is okay not to have balance sometimes. I think for me, I do a lot of work outside of work. I do a lot of like researching and little things, and it takes up a lot of time. And I think at some point I was like, you know what? You just need to have better time management skills and you just need to get things over with. And I remember I was writing really shitty notes and I was just trying to like get things done quickly. And it kind of worked, to be honest. But I felt so not good about the work that I was doing that it just wasn't worth it. So I kind of decided like, hey, I might not be a PA forever. I'm into fire. I'm into early retirement. I might not be doing this job forever, but while I'm doing it, I like to like take time and spend a lot of time doing it and doing it well. And that's okay. And I think just accepting that I like to be detailed in my work, it made me like, it lifted me a little bit. Like sometimes it's not about balancing relaxation perfectly with work. Sometimes you get really deep into the work that you're doing and you just like to go hard on it. And that's okay too. Like if that's your personality and that's what resonates with you, I don't think you should feel bad about it.
It's so important to know yourself, Sammie. I feel like a lot of times people can project either, oh my gosh, like everyone is working hard, I need to work hard, and I need to put in more hours and stay late, when in reality, maybe you don't feel that way. And on the flip side, sometimes we have this culture that's like, no, relax, don't overstress yourself, don't take your work home. And you're like, no, you don't understand. Like, if I don't get this done, I'm going to freak out. And it's just good to know where you are. I think it's good to like check in and make sure you are balancing. But at the same time, if it's going to make you feel better to do something, do it. Or on the flip side, like I'll have people sometimes who are like, or I'll have managers and they'll be like, when you're on vacation, like, don't even worry about work. Don't even don't even check it. I'm like, I don't. When I'm on vacation, I have lined up my eggs. I have all my ducks in a row, and I'm not thinking, because like, I don't think anything terrible is going to happen while I'm gone. But it's funny when you hear people talk to you and you're like, oh, I think maybe you have trouble disconnecting. But you just have to know yourself and be able to be like, hey, like, I'm not going to worry extra because everyone else is worrying, or be like, hey, I'm going to do a little bit of extra work because I feel behind, or I feel like I'm going to forget this, or I need to just get it settled now.
Yeah, and I think this would apply to life after retirement too. Like if you're working on a project, if maybe your first thing is to learn a language or become a rock collector, and you just want to like go hard on that for weeks, do it. Like that's my personality. I think there's other people like that too who really just like to go deep into stuff for like a period of time. And that brings some joy. And I'm like, hey, if that's you, that's me too. And that's okay.
Yeah, Sammie, it's funny because we are good examples of type A and type B personalities. And I feel like type A people everyone's always telling them like, you need to just like calm down, relax, it's fine. And like type B people will be like, oh my God, I feel like I need to be doing more because everybody else feels like they're doing so much. And you just gotta know yourself and do whatever makes you happy.
So true. And the next one that I have is actually related to the business side of my job, which I think everybody's job will have some aspect of this. At my last job, I was put on a project team where we were trying to improve productivity and make our cycle times faster and things like that. And that project, even though it was very time consuming and you could say I wasn't paid extra for it, no big deal. It was actually really great because it taught me how to look at my work differently. Because yes, I became a PA to help people, la la la. But at the same time, it's a business and it has to make money. And if I want to say that I am valuable there, I have to be sure that I am a revenue generator. I'm not saying anybody needs to hurt themselves to like focus on being a revenue generator, but it's an important thing to consider. And, you know, for me, that was about knowing how many patients I'm seeing, how much we get paid for each patient, knowing how much total revenue I bring in as a provider each year versus how much I'm getting paid. And that can really that can really liberate you. You know, you can know like, hey, if I'm bringing in millions of dollars and I'm getting paid a couple $100,000, you know what? That's not bad. And it also makes you less likely to whine because you're not going to be like walk-ins and about people getting checked in late. You know, if you're only seeing 11 patients a day, guess what? You probably shouldn't be complaining because you're complaining and you're barely bringing in any revenue. So calm down. I think it's just like kind of good to know how that stuff works because you can appreciate how your bosses and CEOs and chief financial officers and everything see you. And you can also make yourself very valuable. Like if you're seeing a lot of patients and you're dependable and you're not complaining, and you get things done on time, then you're a valuable employee and, you know, nobody can really say anything to you. Like you have that confidence of knowing that you add value.
I would add to that, Sammie, it also gives you really good perspective when you are doing that work and you are seeing how much revenue you're bringing in, no matter what your job is, on whether or not you should be paid more, whether you should negotiate a higher pay, or whether you should look for another job. Because we talk to so many people now about negotiating and whether or not they should be considering whether or not they should be paid more. And a lot of times people are so nervous to ask for a little bit more money. And it's like, you're bringing in millions of dollars to this company, whatever it might be. And if you really are somebody who's bringing money into your workplace, you have a right to ask for more money. You will be listened to when you ask for more money. And you'll be very valuable when you go to other places because at the end of the day, it's all business and all anybody cares about is how much money you're going to bring them.
Yeah, Michelle. And you bring up a really good point too, because on the other hand, some people might be working really, really hard and not bringing in a lot of revenue just because the overhead of the company is too much or the payback that they get is too little. And that means that structurally, there's something wrong with your company that is not going to be sustainable, at least not sustainable enough to pay you more. And that's not your fault, but it is your problem.
It's so true, Sammie. I think companies do have to have people who work there that might not be directly related to the revenue. But the more disorganized your company is, the more they are having financial troubles. Like, it can give you a little bit of clarity. Like, if somebody's going to be cut, it might be me. Because if I'm not helping the bottom line, I'm going to be the one that gets cut. I totally can feel that. I've seen that with all these layoffs that are happening both now and sort of somewhat consistently with the pandemic, but I think we'll see coming more and more. And it's tough because not every job is considered essential. And when you're not essential, a lot of times what it comes down to is if my company is losing money, who can I cut without losing money?
Exactly, Michelle.
And I don't think that matters your job title or how much money you're paid. I think it can happen at any level.
It's so true. It's literally so true.
Sometimes the highest paid people are the ones where they're bleeding the most money.
Yeah, and it makes sense. I mean, the higher pay you get, it's like you
cost more.
You cost more, so you have to bring in more revenue. So that's not easy to do.
You're a line item. You're worth 3 or 4 people. You got to make sure you're worth 3 or 4 people.
Exactly. So my final lesson, I don't know if it's really a lesson, but, it's like I go to work, just like anybody goes to work, and I'm doing my job all day. Seeing patients every 15 minutes can be very tiring. But I appreciate that my job is a lot of good karma, and I get to plant all these good karma seeds. And I think that's like the biggest status post-adulting lesson that I get from my work is just that I go there, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do to get paid. And even if I'm in a bad or grouchy mood, I still get to put out so much good energy and so much good intention that is like filling my life with good karma. Even if though inherently maybe that's not the type of person I am, because of the type of work I get to do, that's the kind of, energy I get to have around myself, which I do feel like has been a blessing, and I appreciate it more and more over time.
I appreciate that too, Sammie. It is nice when your work is inherently connected to something good. Again, with putting out good energy, with planting positive seeds. Like, I really love that because I think that's true. And it doesn't have to be something in your work. It could be helping other people in your free time or helping out your friends or your family. Like, there's so many ways to do it. And I think what you see over time is that, the more people you help, the more seeds you're planting, the more plentiful and bountiful your garden will be.
It's so true, Michelle.
So, takeaways from this episode, Sammie. Let me see if I can summarize it. Exercise and don't eat sugar. If you just want to generally know what's good for your health. But really, there are so many different lessons to be learned in your professional setting. I love the ones that you shared. Criticism is going to happen. Try not to take it too personally and to take the good out of it that you can. It's not about what you're saying, it's about how you say it. And there's a lot of different ways to approach conversations and to help people see things in different ways. You have to have 100% ownership over everything you do. And that means that when mistakes happen, it's important to acknowledge it so that you have the opportunity to learn from it as well.
And if that resonates with you, like if you are somebody who likes this idea of owning everything, you will like the book Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. I love that book, and I think there's like a type of person who loves that book. So if owning everything, it just makes you happy, if you're a control freak, read the book. It'll just validate your whole life.
Also, other lessons. People want to be heard. It's good to listen to people. It makes a huge difference to how they feel just to be able to be heard. So know that you are having an impact if you are talking to people. And also people respond to the energy that you come in with. It's okay to have balance in your life. It's okay if you're working a little bit of extra sometimes or if you're enjoying your time off. Balance is very specific to a person. Don't let anyone tell you what you should or should not do to be happy. And it's a business. It's just good to know a lot of times, like, what is your real value? Are you bringing in revenue? What is your worth? Those type of tools can really help you understand your place in the organization, and also might even help you understand that maybe you should be making more money. To wrap it all up, which I think is the best lesson, is whether through your work or through other things, it's just good to plant positive seeds. It's good to do good in the world. There are so many opportunities to do nothing positive in this world, and so plant the good seeds.
So true, Michelle. And if you want some good seeds coming into your inbox, then sign up for our newsletter.
Yes.
And how can we do that, Michelle?
Go to the show notes. We'll have a link in the show notes to sign up for our newsletter. It's just going to be something that we send monthly, give you a bit of extra content around what we're talking about, a deeper dive, a look into some things that we feel like maybe we can't talk about on the podcast.
Sounds scandalous.
And keep an eye out for it because we are launching it.
It should be a lot of fun. And we'll probably include some bits and information about our little small town that we have been hinting at, but we, can't necessarily share all the details in the podcast.
Exactly. And continue sharing with your friends. Like we said, we're growing. We're so excited about it. Keep listening to Status Post Adulting and share with anybody you think would enjoy our message. We love you. Thanks for listening.
Yes, Michelle. And most importantly, be sure to join us next time as we put down the rule book and rethink the status quo.